In this video, we'll be showing you how to knit in Mosaic Slip Stitch. This is a 12-row repeat, perfect for experienced makers. Every row starts with one knit stitch. Today, I'll be using 5mm straight needles and our shiny happy cotton in Malibu, which will be colour A, and lipstick red, which we'll refer to as colour B. Now let's get started. Cast on a multiple of 6 stitches plus 2 stitches. As you can see here, I've already made a 12-row repeat. To start your first row, work in colour B. Knit 1 stitch. Knit 1 stitch and then slip 1 stitch purlwise. Knit 3 stitches. Slip 1 stitch purlwise. Repeat that section until you have 1 stitch left. Knit your last stitch. Now for your second row, knit 1 stitch, yarn forward, then slip 1 stitch purlwise, yarn back, and knit 3 stitches. Pull your yarn forward and slip 1 stitch purlwise, yarn back and knit 1 stitch. Repeat that section until you have 1 stitch left. Knit your last stitch. Now let's work the third row. Here we want to change to colour A, which is Malibu. Twist your yarns at the end to give a nice clean finish. We'll do this every time we change colour. Now knit 1 stitch, and then we knit 2 stitches, slip a stitch purlwise, knit 1 stitch, slip 1 stitch purlwise, knit 1 stitch. Repeat this until you have 1 stitch left. Knit your last stitch. So that's row 3 done. Now we're on to row 4. To start, knit 1 stitch. Then we knit 1 stitch, yarn forward, slip 1 stitch purlwise, yarn back. Knit 1, yarn forward, slip 1 stitch purlwise, yarn back, knit 2 stitches. Repeat this section until you have 1 stitch left. Knit that last stitch. Now for row 5, we want to change back to colour B, which is lipstick red. Again, twist your yarns at the end to give that nice clean finish. Knit 1 stitch. We then want to knit 3 stitches, slip 1 stitch purlwise, knit 1 stitch, slip 1 stitch purlwise. Repeat until we have 1 stitch left. Knit that last stitch. So that's 5 rows done. We're on to row 6. Now we start with a knit 1 stitch. Then we get our yarn forward, slip 1 stitch purlwise, then yarn back. Knit 1, yarn forward, slip 1 stitch purlwise, yarn back. Knit 3 stitches. Repeat this section until you have 1 stitch left. Knit that last stitch. For row 7, we're going to change back to colour A, which is our Malibu. Knit 1 stitch. We now want to slip 1 stitch purlwise and then knit 1 stitch, slip 1 purlwise and knit 3. Repeat that section until we have 1 stitch left and knit that last stitch. So that's 7 rows done, and now we're on to row 8, where we knit 1 stitch. We then knit 3 stitches, yarn forward and slip 1 stitch purlwise, yarn back, knit 1, yarn forward and slip 1 stitch purlwise, yarn back. Repeat this section until we have 1 stitch left. Knit that last stitch. On to row 9, let's change back to colour B, which is lipstick red. And knit that first stitch. We then want to knit 1 stitch, slip 1 stitch purlwise, knit 1 stitch, slip 1 stitch purlwise, then knit 2 stitches. And then we're just going to repeat that until we have 1 stitch left. And then again, we're just going to knit that last stitch. On to row 10. We're just going to knit that first stitch. And then we're going to knit 2 stitches, yarn forward, slip 1 stitch purlwise, yarn back, knit 1 stitch, yarn forward, and slip that 1 stitch purlwise, bring that yarn back, and knit 1 stitch. Just repeat that section until you have 1 stitch left. We're then going to knit that last stitch. So that's 10 rows done, and now we're on to row 11. So we're going to change back to colour A, which is Malibu, and twist those yarn ends again. And we're just going to start with that knit 1 stitch. Then we're going to slip 1 stitch purlwise, knit 3 stitches, slip 1 stitch purlwise, and then just knit 1 stitch. Repeat that until you have 1 stitch left, and then knit that last stitch. For the 12th and final row, we're just going to knit that first stitch again. Then we're going to knit 1 stitch, bring the yarn forward, slip 1 stitch purlwise, bring that yarn back, and knit 3 stitches. Bring that yarn forward, slip 1 stitch purlwise, bring that yarn back. And then you're just going to repeat that until the end of the row, until we have 1 stitch left on your needle. We're then going to knit that last stitch. Repeat those 12 rows again until your piece is the desired length. Thank you for watching.